All right, let's crack open one of history's most chilling maritime cold cases. We're talking about a ship found in perfect condition, just adrift, a crew that vanished without a trace, and a mystery that has haunted us for 150 years. This is the real story of the Mary Celeste.
So picture this, December 4th, 1872. The crew of a ship called the Dei Gratia spots another vessel sailing weirdly, kind of zigzagging between the Azores and Portugal. They shout out to it, but nothing. Silence. So they board it, and what they find is just bizarre. The ship is in great shape, totally seaworthy, but it is completely, mysteriously empty. But before it became this legendary ghost ship, it was a vessel of hope. Her captain, Benjamin Briggs, was a seasoned pro. He was so confident about this voyage, he brought his wife Sarah and their little 2-year-old daughter Sophia along for the ride. For them, this ship was a brand new beginning. In the last letter we have from the ship, Sarah wrote to her mother-in-law talking about her son Arthur, who'd stayed back home. And this is so important to remember. These weren't just names on a crew list. They were real people with families and hopes and futures. And that's what makes what happened next so incredibly haunting. So when the crew from the Dei Gratia stepped onto the Mary Celeste, the scene they walked into didn't give them any answers. Nope. It just made the mystery a whole lot deeper, presenting one baffling clue after another. Get this. The ship's important papers were gone, along with its only lifeboat. But everything else, it was just normal, eerily normal. The crew's cabins were tidy, all their personal stuff was still there, there was a 6-month supply of food and water for crying out loud, and absolutely no signs of a fight. It's like they left calmly, but in such a crazy hurry that they abandoned almost everything they owned. It just doesn't add up. The crew of the Dei Gratia sailed the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, and that's where the official investigation kicked off. It was led by a guy named Frederick Solly Flood, and let's just say, this guy was completely convinced from day one that he was looking at a crime scene. Flood immediately started looking for anything at all that would fit his theory of foul play. And his star piece of evidence? Captain Briggs's sword, which he found tucked under his bed. To Flood, some faint stains on the blade were obviously blood, proof of a violent, drunken mutiny. But here's the thing. When the sword was actually tested by scientists, the truth was way less dramatic. The blood was just rust, and in a move that would literally fuel a century of conspiracy theories, Flood had that forensic report sealed. He never told the public, just let those rumors of a bloody massacre run wild. So, with the official investigation stuck in the mud and offering zero real answers, the mystery of the Mary Celeste just became this big, blank canvas. And as it turns out, a young writer was about to pick up a brush and paint a version of the story that would change history forever. Yeah, years before he even dreamed up Sherlock Holmes, a young Arthur Conan Doyle wrote this sensational short story about the ship. He presented it as a true account from a supposed survivor. It was total fiction, of course, but it was so thrilling and so popular that people started accepting his made-up details as cold, hard fact. Doyle even got the ship's name wrong, calling it the Mary Celeste, a mistake that a ton of people still make today. He invented all these spooky details, like warm meals still sitting on the table and the ship being in perfect condition. It made for a much better ghost story, but it was completely inaccurate. Okay, so to really solve this thing, we have to toss out the ghost story and look at the actual evidence. And when you do that, a completely different and frankly more interesting picture starts to emerge. First off, the lifeboat. A lot of the ghost stories claim it was still on board, which would be super weird, right? But that's just not true. The crew of the Dei Gratia were crystal clear in their testimony. The lifeboat was gone. And this, right here, is probably our single most important clue. The crew didn't just vanish into thin air. They left the ship on purpose. And what about the sails? The legend says they were perfectly set, like the crew just poofed away in the middle of a calm day. Again, nope. The sailors who found the ship said the sails were in rough shape. Some were torn, some were gone completely. This suggests the Mary Celeste had been through some bad weather, not that its crete just disappeared on a quiet afternoon. So once we strip away all the fiction, the real clues, the missing lifeboat, the damaged sails, the open hatches, they don't point to a sea monster or aliens. They point to a terrifying but actually pretty logical explanation. And the most important clue of all wasn't a ghost. It was the cargo. The Mary Celeste was carrying 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol.
Now, this wasn't the kind of stuff you drink. This was a powerful industrial chemical. It's super volatile, and under the right conditions, it's explosive.
Now, when the cargo was finally unloaded, the investigators found something very, very interesting. 9 of the barrels were empty. Not because someone drank them, but because they had leaked. And these 9 barrels, well, they're the key to unlocking this whole mystery.
So, what could have happened? Well, scientists at University College London ran a really cool experiment. They built a replica of the ship's hold and lit the alcohol fumes. And the result wasn't some big, fiery Hollywood explosion that splinters wood everywhere. It was a pressure wave explosion, a huge, terrifying blast of hot gas that would blow the hatch covers clean off, but leave no scorch marks, no fire damage. A ghost explosion.
And suddenly, this one theory explains everything. You've got fumes from those 9 leaky barrels building up in the hold. Some random spark ignites them, creating that massive but traceless explosion that blows the hatches open. Captain Briggs, a good captain, sees this and thinks a much bigger, ship-destroying explosion is coming. He makes the only call he can: get my family and my crew off this ship now. So they pile into the lifeboat, but they trail the ship with a long rope, planning to wait it out at a safe distance. But in the rough Atlantic Ocean, that rope snaps. The Mary Celeste, sails still partially set, just drifts away, and 10 people in a tiny boat are left behind, lost to the unforgiving sea. So, in the end, it was a tragedy, an accident born from a chemical reaction and a captain's very sensible decision to protect his people. No mutiny, no sea monster, no aliens. But if there's such a logical explanation, why does the ghost story stick around? Well, maybe it just goes to show that a sensational story, even a fake one, can sometimes be more powerful and last a lot longer than the quiet, heartbreaking truth.